Right, here's the feedback for Osten Parish for part 1 of the animation simulation module. Okay, Osten. I've had a good look through your research document there, but I'm going to come to that last. I'd like to finish with that one. I've also got your video clips all loaded up and all ready to go, so we'll have a work through those together. I've already had a good look through them anyway, but let's go through them together. Okay, so I'm pleased you've done a nice, sort of good separate range of motion demonstration of your character. It's really useful for me to see this. And I'm also pleased that you've actually been bothered to put reasonable camera angles in there so I can see them. A number of people have done them at a great distance, like I'm viewing it at the other end of the room or something. Yeah, so these things, obviously, I mean, those are very good. I like those. You know, you've done a good job. There's enough sort of flex and pull probably of the fabric there that it's not unrealistic, so I like that. But the key things that I'm looking for really here are things like the backs and knees and things. So I'm just going to move into that bit at the moment. Okay. But we could have done with that being just a slightly slower animation there. But it does look to work. It looks to work well, the animation. I'll keep seeing that back. There's a little bit of intersection of the mesh, but I think that's okay really. I don't mind a little bit of kind of penetration of that, but really it would be better off if they kind of meet. So the thigh and the calf sort of meet rather than kind of penetrate in like that, which otherwise you get this very clear shape of the calf, but then no kind of clear definition of the thigh area. But it does work, it functions well. Yeah, the knee areas, it works pretty well. There's no great kind of bulging out here. Some people have had things that are kind of these weird kind of bulgy elements that come out the side there of the thigh. Good range of motion. I think probably well, it would have been useful perhaps for the range of motion here to have shown it maybe with and without the clothing, because here looks like it works reasonably well for the underlying skin, but were this the fabric of an actual skirt or something, I don't think it would necessarily tuck in like this. I think the fabric would continue to flow down rather than kind of pinch in there. So it would have been useful to see it probably with and without the clothing. That's purely a demonstration thing, and it's something to learn from. He's done the right thing to hide the hair, by the way, because I did say you can do that. That looks pretty. Looks like it functions. I mean, that's probably a slightly unnatural sort of a movement that we get here. I think that's beyond the natural limits of the character, but it's good to see that you've got it rigged so it can do that. Nice kind of pulling of the fabric there. Good twist of the fabric as well. Yeah, that works pretty well. Kind of, it looks like there's a reasonable sort of fall off there. Maybe it's a little bit too, maybe there's too much control down here, too much weighting perhaps, but because it looks like it kind of comes to there and then kind of almost stops. So I think a more kind of gradual fall off from the top, fall off rather from the kind of the top around the jaw area down towards maybe here would have worked better. That was pretty neat. Again, I'd have had the camera coming down from above to see the elbows, which we do, which is good. Yeah, there's a lot of creasing going on in there. Just going to see that bit again, actually. So there it's okay, but when we get the full sort of bend, these don't really look like they're joining together, they look like they're intersecting and pinching together. What you could have done there is it had this, so you've got the skin weighting doing its thing, and then you could have perhaps added, we've got a corrected blend or corrected blend shape type thing, which would have just tidied up this area, but only when we get that extreme bend. Or set driven key even would have worked for that. Yeah, I mean this I'm a little bit concerned about, because we get, let's get back to the wrist rotation. The downwards one works well, but when we actually get the rotation of the wrist, it's a little bit of a glitch here. And if you consider your own wrist when it rotates, it doesn't actually rotate around the wrist as you think it might do. The wrist is fairly locked solid to the hand, and it rotates all the way up the arm, which is the bit that I mentioned that you might want to look at, and that will be, it's like an extra thing I said in the assignment, but it's like a rolling wrist bone, effectively, and it works a bit like the radius and the ulna in your lower arm. So kind of a rolling wrist bone would have helped there. Otherwise, you've got this very locked elbow, and all the rotations taking place at the wrist, which is not anatomically correct. And that's what it looks like it's doing. It looks like there's good possibilities with the fingers there. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously you're pushing those, I think, beyond their natural limits, but that's okay for the demo because I want to know that they could do that kind of thing. Yeah, they've got a lot of good control there for that. Okay, let's move on to the animation then. Okay, so that does showcase it pretty well. Good moves. Nice bow at the end to finish things off. Really good. Now, I'm just going to have a quick look at your character rig in Maya, I think. So, here we are in Maya then. So, I've had a little look at this, and it looks like there actually is an expression for each of the wrist rotations, which kind of surprised me a little bit, because it just felt like when the rotation was taking place, it wasn't quite functioning properly. It just felt a little bit like the rotation, but I can't get it to work at all now. Anyway, didn't really matter. But it didn't feel like it was rotating all the way down the arm, which is kind of surprising really to me, because it felt like you guess you got it set up, but it didn't seem to be evidenced all that well in here, which is a real shame. But not to worry, you've had a go at doing it, because I can see the expressions there, and that expression should work pretty well, because you've got the forearm roll is equal to the arm roll left hand over 4. So it's kind of a quarter of that movement. Maybe a quarter's too maybe it's not bold enough. I don't know. Maybe half that movement, perhaps something like that might have been better. But it is in there. You also seem to have some sort of blend shape here, which it's not obvious to me quite what that does at the moment. Probably I'd have to have the right animation or the right movement taking place for that to function, perhaps. But the thing is, you've had a go at that. However, with this, I would have just named that. Just rename it blend shape. So it's something like, I don't know, wrist blend or neck blend or whatever it's supposed to be a blend for. Just make it a little bit more obvious. Okay. So with that, I'm pretty pleased with it. You've done some good stuff there. What you have done functions very well. There's certain things that just need some tidying up, I think. And the demonstration that you've given was good. However, what I might have suggested you did for the range of motion demonstration, or perhaps an extra demonstration on top of the animated range of motion, was actually demo it. Do a screen capture demonstration of you using the rig, because that really showcases what works. The inverse kinematics and the forward kinematics, the foot rolls, how these blend shapes come into play. Have you got any set driven key type stuff in there? How's that work? Because that really showcases your work. Because I think you've done a very good job of this, but you perhaps haven't showcased everything you've done to its best. That's the thing with this one. Anyway, I'm going to leave this open. I just like to leave these open like this, and then I'm going to go back to VLC, and we'll nip in and we'll have a look at the facial stuff as well. So this makes for a good demo, I think, because you're showcasing your use of the control system. That seems to function very well. One thing I would suggest perhaps with the eyelids is that very subtly maybe the lower eyelid might just kind of lift up just a little bit to come and meet. I mean, it's very, very subtle, but it's just a little bit of movement there can just make things look a little bit more realistic. Very severe brows, which I think is good. It gives you the option. The fact that you've gone perhaps beyond what is kind of naturally possible, anatomically possible, just gives you that extra option. You don't have to put it to 100%. When you slide up, you could bring it down to 80, 75, something. So that's a good thing. The other thing I like is the fact it's brows up and down. A few people have done this, and they've just had it like as effectively what I call kind of a one-way slide, which is they push it up and the brows go up, they put it down and it goes to neutral. Well, why not have middle neutral and up, brows up, and down, brows down? You've done that. It's logical. Makes sense. Okay. It's quite an interesting one. I like that. Works well. Yeah, so it's interesting with this that you've actually got several things going on at once there, because it's rather than being a blend of a particular feature, it's a blend almost towards a facial expression, a separate facial expression, which can be a useful thing for an animator. Yeah, good nostrils, I like that. It's kind of a bit of an extra as well. Yeah, that's very good mouth setup. I'd be interested to have a look at your Maya file for that as well. Again, so it's useful that you've got these complete facial expressions, so you've seen the benefit of having those. I do notice with the shocked one, there's a little bit of neck movement there as well, which I think is okay, but just, I mean, maybe have that so it kind of just kind of blend out towards no effect at all towards the bottom end there. It might save you problems should you need to rig the rest of the body. I think the curious one is okay, but it only allows kind of movement of the jaw sort of to one side. It's very restrictive, I think, that one. But you've had a go, but you demoed, you can do it. That's the main thing. Technically speaking, you've showcased you can do it. Okay, so the eye works. Definitely looks at the individual elements there. That's good. Eyes work individually as well as together. Good head controller. It looks like you've got a good fall off down the neck as well. I did notice in your research and development portfolio that you got some excellent reference for this, which I think is really, really good. I'll come back to that in a minute. There was a slight issue, I think, with this. When it's bending back was good. When it's rotating left and right, I don't think there's enough fall off down here. It looks like that section of the neck downwards is very solid. So the rotation feels like it's happening from here upwards, where if you've got a neck rotation, it should really be working its way all the way from down here a little. A little bit more fall off will be better there. So with something like that, to have a rotation of the head, you need to be very careful about that, and I'll explain what I mean by this. Just while it kind of rotates side to side. Because if you're not careful, what happens is it rotates around the centre of mass, almost of the skull. If you think of a head rotate to the left or the right, generally comes more from down the neck up towards the top of the head, not at this point here. So you'd expect there to be maybe, rather than this kind of displacement off to the right to come into the left there, you'd expect the rotate to take place almost from down here, or that rotation would happen and this would be pushed to the left. So, you know, use a little bit more use of your reference. So, show a little bit more use of your reference rather. Yeah, so I'm pleased you did. I'm glad you moved in close to show this, because I couldn't quite see it when you were doing the eye movement. This is excellent. That little skin tug there of the eyelid is brilliant. However, I would have perhaps had a tiny little bit of displacement in the top lid as well. I mean, this is excellent. Love that one. But just the top lid would have added that little bit extra as well. Yeah, and you've got that kind of a corrective blend as well at the top. It's just subtle. It's just enough to show compression of the lips. Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, I mean, I think this as a facial setup, I think is very, very good. It's excellent. I think that I've got a slight issue with that kind of the eyebrow there. It's become very sharp, almost like pinched across the top. I think it needs to maintain its mass. Because whilst there is like there's a bone that runs underneath there, obviously to form your eye socket, there's kind of a little bit of kind of slight, tiny little bit of tissue above that, which obviously the skin lies on the top of. But it's not quite so sharp as that, I don't think. I think it would be still a little bit more rounded. Okay, so I think that's better. There's a little bit more rounding to it, because a little bit of muscle, a little bit of kind of tissue there. Okay, that's neat. Okay, I'm going to minimize that. I think the facial stuff is excellent. The R&D I also think is excellent. I'm pleased that what we see here is actually a lot of information that builds up to you actually having a go at this. So we're like, what, 4, 5, 6, in fact 6 pages in before we actually see your stuff. So it shows me that you're actually considering these elements, you know, neck rotations, rotational limits. This is useful stuff, because there's no point you rigging something to work to give your character, you know, movement that it's never going to do. So know the rotational limits, know the anatomical structure of the character, what it can and can't actually do, and then make that kind of payoff in your rigging. This is the image I was talking about. I think this is an excellent image. This kind of shows the kind of the flex of the neck alone, I think it's a brilliant image. In fact, it's one I probably would like to keep for myself because I think it's a great reference. But this one here specifically showcases the point I was saying about the neck rolls to the left and to the right. It doesn't roll from just behind the chin. It rolls from all the way down the spine here. In fact, there's also a little bit of roll of the spine itself. You can see there's a kind of an arc there. But if we're only looking from this level up, we'd see that the rotate kind of comes from here. There's probably only a tiny rotation here, but the bigger rotation is around about here. Okay. But again, brilliant visual reference. But do heed the advice of your reference. Yeah. Okay. Excellent stuff again. I mean, I'm pleased that you are looking at, imagery, also looking at web links as well. Before we even get to your character development. I think a lot of people rushed into this. I showed you this quick rig thing. A lot of people just leapt on it. I'll do a quick rig then. So it was useful, I think, for you to actually have that visual reference before I think you tackled some of this stuff, because that way then you were prepared for it. Let's have a quick look at this here. Yeah, all good stuff. And again, looking at facial movement, it's good that you looked at kind of a range of facial expressions, not just the obvious kind of mouth open, mouth closed, smile, frown. Because I think again that served you well with this stuff. Yeah, good use of the shape editor. I did like the layout of everything you've got here. It's nicely labelled up. It's very logical. The mouth down does open the mouth, for example. Brows up and down. Up is up and down is down. It makes sense. It's logical. Yeah, that's an excellent portfolio of work. Okay, so overall for this Osten, I think it's excellent. The figurative stuff, yes. I mean, I pointed out some errors, some things that would require a little bit of fix, a little bit of a polish and things. But I do think that overall it's excellent. I like the facial stuff possibly even better than the whole figurative stuff. I think you did some brilliant stuff in there. You showed good use of the rigging of expressions. You showed good use also, I feel, of the things like set driven keys and blend shapes, particularly around the kind of the mouth sort of an area. I like the work that you're doing with that. And also the fact that you've not just done it and copied the tutorials. I think you've really ironed out some of the creases, some of the things that I didn't quite finish off in the tutorials, because obviously I'm just trying to demonstrate the technique. I'm not taking it to its level of completion that I'd expect for a submission, and I think you've absolutely done that. And then also in the portfolio of work, again, there's some excellent material there. So, I mean, it's so good is some of that stuff. I'm actually going to use it myself. I think it's fantastic. So overall, Osten, good work there. Well done.